Hi, welcome to a special edition of Education Matters. We're looking at the reopening of our schools, hopefully in September, finding a new normal in public education. Today, I have three guests with me. We'll be talking about the Wingman program, which we've discussed before, but we're going to relook at it in these hard times. With me is Ian Hockley, who most of you know, the person who started the Wingman program, Joe Fleres, who's the assistant superintendent, director of curriculum for the Bloomfield School District, and Michael Bruno, who's also director of guidance and mental wellness at the school district. So welcome to all three of you. Ian, why don't you get started? I mean, let's just, for those who don't know what the Wingman program is, before we get into how you've adjusted it.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. Thanks for having us on. Wingman is a program used for social emotional learning in schools. It's an experiential-based program, so a lot of very engaging activities for the students to take part in. And it's been designed to be youth-led. So we will train students to be the facilitators of the program, and then they take it out to their peers and run activities with them. And it's a carefully sequenced program that builds and creates connections amongst the students, start to break down the barriers, start to counter social isolation and exclusion, and build a stronger school community.
Before I get to Joe, you're trying to build connections. Actually, is that maybe more important now that we're in a world where we're having a hard time with the connections?
Before this pandemic hit, we were talking about another epidemic out there, and this epidemic of social isolation that is impacting so many of the kids we see. They're not able to find their place. They're not able to form, those connections and like a safety net and a support structure. And Wingman is just one way to help foster that within the school environment. So it was important then. And then as soon as COVID hit, and things were shut down, schools were shut down, you suddenly have everybody pushed into their own form of social isolation. And whatever support structures were there that kids were finding in schools was gone. And so it's almost like it's twice as important now to have programming in place to help the kids navigate where they're at now and where they're going to be in the fall.
Joe, first of all, I want you to explain why Bloomfield School District took on the Wingman before any of this happened. But for those who are not aware of Bloomfield School District, just give a little snapshot of the size of the district, where it is.
Sure. Bloomfield's located in Essex County. We're surrounded by such towns as Glen Ridge, Montclair, Newark, just to name a few. We have approximately 6,500 kids, over 1,000 employees. Just to get onto the question of why incorporate Wingman, in Bloomfield, we pride ourselves on educating the whole child. And part of the whole child is obviously social emotional well-being. When we started discussing our safety plans going back a couple of years ago, we realized that safety and social emotional well-being included the students feeling completely and utterly comfortable when they're in our four walls for the learning day. And that initially led us to the Sandy Hook Start With Hello program, which through a connection with Mike Bruno, led us to Ian Hockley. And Ian Hockley and the Bloomfield School Districts engaged in what I think is a paramount collaboration, and not only has become a colleague, but a friend of ours here in Bloomfield. And I think it has been so well received by students, staff, community alike, that the program just continues to organically grow, which we feel is very important.
And Michael, what grades have you started this in, and what are the benefits you see in your position?
Ian, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're the first district in the world to roll this program out K through 12. So we have trained staff in each building, K through 12. They roll it out to the students, and then it becomes a peer leadership program from there. I've noticed personally students have been more courageous, more empathetic, more outgoing, and like Ian said, the pandemic of social isolation, it seems that it really hit home for a lot of students, and the effects of the program are really really seen throughout the course of the day.
And so, Mike, I want to follow up on that. Do you think it's almost more important, like I said to Ian, that because we're going through an era, we're reopening schools, and these kids a lot of them haven't seen each other since the middle of March. Is that almost more important now?
I believe so. Our district rolled out a few surveys to the community, and it seemed like social isolation and social emotional well-being was right at the top of that list for our parents and community.
And Joe, I want to follow up with you too. Is that something that the district, from what I've been talking to other districts, looking at the social emotional well-being of both, actually, not just the students, the staff, when we get back in school, hopefully in September, is that a focus of the Bloomfield School District?
Yeah, absolutely. We are very concerned with our students having been home from middle of March now until hopefully we return in September. And like Mike alluded to, we did send out a survey to the staff community and the students. And we heard loud and clear that parents are concerned for their students being home for such a long duration. And those that were practicing social distancing and isolation, their kids were home without their peers, without interaction for a long duration of time. So we feel that as part of our opening plan that we're in deep discussions right now for September, building in that social emotional piece and making sure our students are comfortable and feel good throughout the day is just as important as building the mathematical piece or the science piece when our kids return.
Ian, we're all trying to find new ways in this world. We're doing this via a Zoom interview. Normally we'd all be together doing something like this. The Wingman program, I've watched it. It's kind of a very hands-on, very energetic training. How did you have to adjust to this new normal?
You're right, Ray. You know, everything we do is the complete opposite of what we can do under the COVID restrictions. It's a very tactile program. People are in close contact, sharing and talking with each other. And we knew we needed to move it virtual. This became everybody's life, what we're doing right now. But what we had to do is retain the experiential nature, because that's what makes it so effective. You're not just engaging people just mentally. You need some sort of physical engagement and stir their emotions. That's what's making Wingman so effective. And so we started piloting some virtual workshops almost immediately, as soon as we knew our on-site program had stopped. And we were inviting teachers and students from the different schools to come on, and really starting to play those games. And I don't say that lightly. The activities seem like games because that's most engaging to the kids, and trying to draw out the challenges that the activities had within them, just within a virtual setting. And we had a lot of support from many educators out there to give us advice and guidance about what would work. And there was a whole field and team of people working on creating activities that would work online. The Zoom tool has been wonderful, because you can create breakout rooms. And in breakout rooms, 2 or 3 people can hive off and have a small discussion and come back to the main group. Because another great thing about Wingman is it's not, all circle work and everybody sharing. There's small discussions, people building their confidence and their comfort level. So, we did that immediately. It's still being refined, and that'll be ready for the fall. So as many of those activities that we were doing in person, we'll have available and ready to do virtually. And we'll also be distributing it virtually. So as you say, we were training in person. We've moved that training online. We ran our very first trainings for teachers up here in Connecticut in June, and trialing it out. And it's always going to be suboptimal. It just is. There's no replacement for that in-person connection, but it's what we desperately need to do right now.
And Joe, what do you see as the issues facing the district? I mean, you did talk about the social emotional and the mental well-being of everyone involved in our buildings, whether it's staff or whether it's the students. So what do you see as the focus, and how maybe you can fit Wingman in?
The Wingman program was so important to us during the closure that our buildings continued to participate in such things as Wingman Wednesday, Wingman lunches, our Wingman leaders throughout the district still continue to meet virtually. So I feel, and I don't want to speak for them, but I could confidently say that I think the Wingman program really carried through not only our students that were involved, but some of our staff as well during a very hard time for them. The virtual piece, I don't think will be a problem for us. I think we've done a very good and adequate job with providing all of our students with a technology piece, access to the internet, and providing our teachers with Chromebooks and the materials necessary to engage online. So I really don't see many hurdles other than the fact, like the teaching component that we looked at with virtual, you cannot replace face-to-face instruction, whether it's social emotional learning, whether it's mathematics instruction, literature instruction. We will always be missing that piece. But as far as any sort of virtual training that's being done or programs being offered, I don't foresee many hurdles with that.
And Mike, do you have a follow-up to that? Because this is in your wheelhouse. Did it help during this closure?
I truly believe it did. We also, just to put things in perspective, the day after school ended, we had a voluntary Zoom call with Ian and his staff members. Out of roughly 35 staff members that could be in attendance, we had 27. So I think that speaks volumes to the trust and the appreciation that the staff has for this program, and they truly see the benefits that it has not only on themselves but the students and the community as a whole.
Okay, Ian, do you, if someone wants to get any more information on this, how would they do that? How would they reach out to you?
Yeah, and I mean, we developed this wonderful relationship with the team in Bloomfield. As Mike said, the first entire district-wide rollout with many of their staff trained to be the trainers. So one thing we've done, because we realize the importance of getting this as widespread as possible, social and emotional learning for the kids to come back to school, we've retooled what we've done to have a version of the program that's just educator-led. The student leader training is 2 full days. We are taking kids from 4th, 5th grade up to high schoolers. They go through an intense 2 days of training because it's not that they're not naturally leaders and educators. So we've created a version of the program available for any teacher to download and run with, that they can run with their students, and that will be available come August. So that with two hours of self-paced training, they can run the activities that otherwise we would be training the students to lead, just so we can have the program as available as widely as possible. So they can contact us directly. They can get in touch. Our foundation is Dylan's Wings of Change. So info@Dylan'sWingsOfChange.
Okay. Before we close, Joe and Mike, the reopening this September is not going to be like any other reopening of our opening of a school day. It's going to be totally different no matter what happens. And there's no little issue, at least from my perspective, I don't see any little issues when we try to open our schools in September. How do you feel the Bloomfield School District will deal with all this?
I think we're going to deal with it the best we can. I think we have a real collaborative team approach to this. We have a 1 day at a time approach. As things change in the state and the country, we're adjusting, we're constantly collaborating, we're constantly reaching out via surveys, email, Google Meets, whatever means necessary to make sure we're on the same page with everyone else. Again, like I stated before, I think it's very important if and when a student comes back to us in September, whether that's a hybrid, whether that's virtual, whether that's however, I think it's very important that that student is in a good social emotional state of mind before we start addressing the academic needs. We need to make sure their minds are okay and their hearts are okay, and that they feel comfortable being in our 4 walls again. At that point, then we can move on towards the academics and taking care of the things that we're equipped to take care of.
Okay, any final thoughts from you, Mike?
I agree with everything Joe said, and part of our responsibility this summer is to, as the survey results came out, we're contacting families that might need additional support over the summer to ensure that come September, their mental and emotional state of mind is ready to rock and roll in September. And we'll be good from there. I don't know.
Well, that brings us to the end of this interview. I want to thank Ian, Joe, and Mike. I think they provided a lot of information. And I know the team at Bloomfield School District will work really hard to make sure the kids are put first. And I'm pretty sure you're going to succeed too. And Ian, it's great to see how you adjusted to these new times. And thank you for all you do for the school districts, not just in New Jersey, in Connecticut as well. So that brings us to the end of this special edition of Education Matters. I hope you enjoyed it.